They say intelligence isn't just what you know, it's how you live. A highly intelligent woman doesn't chase approval or trends. She builds habits that shape a life of clarity, strength, and purpose. She doesn't need to prove herself because her presence speaks louder than words. These powerful habits aren't learned overnight. They are cultivated with intention, reflection, and courage. If you're ready to step into your power, lead with wisdom, and elevate every area of your life, then this list is your roadmap to becoming that woman, deeply aware, unshakably grounded, and endlessly evolving. She doesn't just walk into a room, she owns it without ever needing to raise her voice. A highly intelligent woman moves with grace, leads with empathy, and thinks 10 steps ahead while others are still reacting. Her strength lies not only in what she knows, but in how she applies it, through daily habits that elevate her mindset, deepen her presence, and sharpen her intuition. If you've ever wondered what sets these extraordinary women apart, it's not luck or talent alone. It's a conscious set of practices that build inner power, resilience, and wisdom. These are the 12 powerful habits that shape the mind and spirit of a highly intelligent woman. Number 1, she protects her peace. A highly intelligent woman understands that her peace is not a luxury. It is her foundation. In a world filled with distractions, noise, and emotional turbulence, she makes a deliberate choice to guard her inner calm. Why? Because she knows that a chaotic environment breeds scattered thinking, poor decisions, and emotional reactivity. Protecting her peace isn't about isolation or arrogance. It's about clarity, discipline, and the recognition that her energy is a sacred resource, not to be wasted. She has learned to say no without guilt. Whether it's to a draining social event, a toxic relationship, or even her own overthinking, she sets boundaries not to shut others out, but to keep herself grounded. These boundaries are invisible shields that protect her time, attention, and emotional well-being. She doesn't allow herself to be easily pulled into drama, gossip, or the emotional volatility of others. While the world may tempt her to react, she responds only with purpose. Her morning doesn't start with chaos. It begins with intention. Maybe it's silence, maybe it's prayer, meditation, a walk, or journaling. Whatever her ritual, she's not reaching for her phone before reaching for herself. In those first minutes of the day, she reconnects with her values, her breath, her purpose. She knows that how she starts determines how she carries herself throughout the hours to come. That simple act of choosing presence over pressure allows her to lead with strength rather than stress. She is careful about the energy she entertains. Not every conversation deserves her attention. Not every opinion deserves a reaction. And not every conflict is worth her peace. This doesn't mean she avoids difficult things. It means she approaches them with wisdom. She doesn't argue just to win. She speaks only when it improves silence. And when silence is the most powerful response, she honors that too. Even in her workspace, she designs environments that soothe rather than stimulate unnecessarily. She declutters her schedule and her physical space. She's not addicted to being busy. She's committed to being effective. And part of being effective is knowing when to disconnect, when to rest, and when to protect her mental clarity as fiercely as she protects her goals. But perhaps the most powerful aspect of how she protects her peace is internal. She practices emotional discipline. She doesn't let every passing thought or feeling hijack her. When anger rises, she observes it. When anxiety creeps in, she breathes through it. Her mind becomes her ally, not her enemy. Through this mastery, she navigates life with a rare calm, a calm that others often mistake for effortless confidence. The intelligent woman isn't detached. She's deeply aware. She simply refuses to let external chaos disrupt her inner order, because she knows when her mind is still, her vision is sharp. When her heart is calm, her decisions are wise. And when her spirit is protected, she becomes unshakable. That is why, above all, she protects her peace. Number 2, She listens more than she speaks. A highly intelligent woman understands the subtle power of listening. While the world rushes to speak, to be heard, to assert, and to impress, she pauses. She listens, not just with her ears, but with her full presence. To her, listening is not a passive act. It's an active form of wisdom. It's how she learns, how she senses truth, how she perceives the emotions beneath the words, and how she gains influence, not by volume, but by insight. She doesn't interrupt to prove her knowledge or defend her stance. She knows that the most intelligent people are those who can sit in silence without needing to dominate the space. When others speak, she listens with intention. She observes body language, tone, contradictions, and subtext. She understands that people often reveal more in how they speak than in what they say. This awareness allows her to read the room and see through facades that others might miss. In a conversation, she's not waiting for her turn to speak. She's absorbing the moment. She doesn't need to be the loudest person in the room because she already knows her worth. Her presence commands attention without demanding it. And when she finally does speak, her words land with weight because they are grounded in understanding, not ego. She listens not just to others but to herself. She tunes into her intuition. She checks in with her body, her emotions, and her breath. She knows when something feels off, when her energy shifts, when her space is draining rather than nourishing. That self-awareness becomes a compass that guides her through complex situations with confidence and grace. Her listening also extends to the unspoken. She hears the pain behind a forced smile, the insecurity behind arrogance, the truth behind polished words. Because she listens without judgment, people feel safe opening up to her. They sense she's not looking to respond, but to truly understand. And in that space of understanding, trust is born. This habit makes her a powerful leader, partner, and friend. People gravitate toward her, not because she talks the most, but because when she does speak, it feels like she's speaking to you, not at you. Her words are thoughtful, intentional, and often disarmingly wise. She avoids speaking just to fill silence. She respects silence as a space for thought, for reflection, for clarity. And in a world that often values noise over depth, this makes her presence magnetic. She has learned that words can build or break, heal or harm, so she chooses them carefully because she understands their power. To listen more than you speak is to hold back your ego and lead with humility. It's to seek truth over validation, and it's to recognize that understanding others begins with quieting yourself. The highly intelligent woman lives by this principle, not because she lacks something to say, but because she's mastered the wisdom of knowing when and how to say it. Number 3, she questions everything, including herself. A highly intelligent woman doesn't take things at face value, not opinions, not traditions, not even her own beliefs. She moves through the world with a curious and questioning mind. To her, blind acceptance is a form of limitation. She doesn't conform for the sake of comfort or agree just to be liked. Instead, she dares to ask, why? What else could be true? Is this belief still serving me? In this way, questioning isn't rebellion, it's refinement. It's how she sharpens her perspective, deepens her self-awareness, and evolves. She questions the narratives she's been handed by society, by family, by culture. If she's been told that her worth depends on appearance, she challenges that idea. If she's been told to stay silent, she asks who benefits from her silence. This inner dialogue is constant but not chaotic. It's intentional. She peels back layers of inherited conditioning to uncover her authentic voice. She doesn't follow paths simply because they're well trodden. She examines whether they lead to her truth. But her questioning doesn't stop with the external world. It turns inward. She holds herself accountable with compassion. When emotions arise, she asks, why did I react that way? What am I avoiding? Is this fear or is this wisdom? Self-inquiry becomes her most trusted tool for growth. She is not afraid to confront her own contradictions or admit when she's wrong. She knows that ego resists questions, but wisdom invites them. Because of this habit, she evolves faster than most. She doesn't cling to outdated identities. She understands that growth requires letting go of who she used to be, even if that version once felt safe. She embraces the discomfort of change because she knows that every transformation begins with the question, is there a better way? This mindset also makes her resilient in the face of challenge. When things fall apart, she doesn't collapse into victimhood. She asks, what is this teaching me? What am I meant to see now that I couldn't before? Her intelligence isn't about having all the answers. It's about asking the right questions, especially when life is uncertain. In conversations, she's not afraid to challenge ideas respectfully. She doesn't seek to argue but to understand. She knows how to disagree without disrespect and how to debate without ego. This makes her presence refreshing. People feel mentally stimulated around her, not judged. Yet her questions are always rooted in humility. She doesn't question to diminish others, but to elevate understanding. She recognizes that every belief, no matter how sacred, must be examined if it is to stand the test of time. And she applies this standard most rigorously to herself. In a world that often rewards certainty, she thrives in the gray areas. She knows that intelligence is not about having a fixed worldview, but a flexible one. So she continues to question, refine, and evolve, because that is how truth is revealed. Growth is sustained, and authentic power is born. Number 4, she invests in solitude. A highly intelligent woman is not afraid to be alone. She seeks it. In a world addicted to noise, validation, and constant connection, she understands the rare and irreplaceable value of solitude. To her, solitude is not isolation. It is not loneliness. It is a sacred space, a mirror, a sanctuary. It is where she retreats not to escape the world but to understand it, and more importantly, to understand herself within it. She doesn't fear being alone with her thoughts because she has cultivated a relationship with her inner world. While others might run from silence, filling it with distractions and scrolling endlessly just to avoid themselves, she embraces it. In solitude, she listens. She observes the patterns of her mind, the rhythm of her breath, and the quiet whispers of her intuition. This is where real clarity lives. Not in the noise of opinions or the pressure of crowds, but in the stillness that only silence can offer. Her most powerful decisions are made not in the boardroom, not in debate, but in moments of aloneness. When she is walking alone, journaling in the quiet morning, or simply sitting with her own truth. In those private hours, she can see clearly what matters and what doesn't. She can strip away the expectations of the world and come face to face with what she truly wants. That is the kind of alignment that makes her unshakable. She invests in solitude the same way others invest in productivity or appearance, consistently, intentionally, and without apology. It is her form of self-respect. She may block out time just to be with herself. No meetings, no phone calls, no social noise. That time is not free time, it's essential time. Because she understands that her energy is not infinite, and solitude is how she recharges, rebuilds, and returns to the world stronger. In solitude, she processes her emotions. She does not lash out or suppress, she reflects. When something unsettles her, she doesn't immediately react. She steps back into a quiet space and asks herself, what is this really about? In doing so, she heals herself in ways the outer world could never provide. Emotional maturity is built here, in the quiet confrontation with her own fears, flaws, and desires. And when the world misunderstands her choice for solitude, when people mistake it for distance or coldness, she does not rush to explain. She smiles quietly, knowing that only a few will understand that solitude is not a weakness, it's a form of mastery. It's how she creates the mental space to think clearly, the emotional room to feel deeply, and the spiritual connection to live intentionally. She doesn't just spend time alone, she invests in it. Because she knows solitude pays dividends. Peace of mind, clarity of purpose, and alignment with her highest self. In that sacred stillness, she doesn't just find rest, she finds herself. And that is where her true power begins. Number 5, she builds without broadcasting. A highly intelligent woman knows that growth does not need an audience. While the world races to share, to post, to declare every plan before it's fully formed, she moves differently. Quietly, purposefully, and with discipline. She builds her vision behind the scenes, brick by brick, not for validation but for transformation. Her silence is not secrecy, it is strategy, because she understands things grow best when protected, not exposed. She understands things grow best when protected, not exposed. She doesn't feel the need to announce her goals to the world. She's not driven by applause or external approval. Her motivation comes from within, a deep knowing of who she is and what she's capable of becoming. The journey is sacred to her, not something to be packaged for likes, views, or recognition. When others wonder what she's doing, it's because she's too focused doing it to talk about it. There is power in privacy and she knows how to wield it. While others exhaust themselves performing success, she invests that energy into building real success. Quietly mastering her craft, learning new skills, sharpening her mind, healing her wounds. She understands that premature exposure invites distraction, doubt, and sometimes even sabotage. So she keeps her progress to herself, not out of fear, but out of wisdom. In a culture obsessed with visibility, she finds her strength in invisibility, not hiding but guarding. Like a seed buried in the soil, she allows her efforts to take root in the dark. She doesn't rush to bloom. She nurtures the unseen stages of growth because she knows that what's real does not need to be rushed or advertised. What's real will speak for itself in time. This habit also reflects her humility. She doesn't chase status or compare timelines. She stays in her own lane, letting her actions do the talking. When she does emerge, it's with something meaningful, something finished, polished, and powerful. And that's why her success often looks effortless, because no one saw the years of silent effort behind it. She is content being underestimated, even overlooked. In fact, she uses it as fuel. While others waste energy trying to be impressive, she stays grounded in what truly matters. The work, the discipline, the long game. And when her results appear, they're undeniable, because they were not built on hype, but on consistency, even in relationships and friendships. She doesn't overshare. She protects her dreams from casual conversations. Not everyone deserves access to her inner world, and she knows the difference between support and surveillance. She chooses silence, not because she lacks something to say, but because she respects the power of timing. She builds in silence so her life can speak loudly. Her wins are not accidents. They are the result of years of quiet effort, focus, and inner resilience. While others post about the grind, she's deep in it. While others seek praise, she seeks progress, because for her, the real flex isn't telling the world what she's going to do. It's doing it and letting the world figure it out later. Number 6, she values emotional intelligence. A highly intelligent woman doesn't just measure intelligence by intellect, she measures it by emotional awareness. She understands that success in life, relationships, leadership, and even personal peace is not determined solely by IQ, but by EQ, emotional intelligence. This inner compass guides her through the complexities of human connection, conflict, and growth. While others might chase knowledge to appear smart, she cultivates emotional mastery to live wisely. Emotional intelligence begins with self-awareness, and she has developed this as a daily habit. She doesn't run from her feelings, suppress them, or let them explode uncontrollably. Instead, she observes them, with compassion and curiosity. When anger rises, she doesn't lash out. She looks inward. When sadness visits, she doesn't hide. It becomes an invitation to slow down and listen. She knows that understanding her emotions is the first step in directing them. Her mind may be sharp, but her strength lies in how gently she handles herself. She also possesses self-regulation. She doesn't react impulsively or recklessly, even when provoked. She knows that emotional maturity means choosing your response, not justifying your reaction. Whether in a high-pressure meeting, a heated conversation, or a painful personal moment, she remains centered. Not because she's unfeeling, but because she's practiced presence. Her calm isn't weakness, it's control. Empathy is another core of her emotional intelligence. She doesn't just listen to words, she feels energy, reads expressions, senses what's left unsaid. She can enter someone else's experience without judgment, which makes her an incredible leader, friend, partner, and mentor. People feel seen in her presence, not because she tries to fix them, but because she simply understands. She doesn't dismiss pain or avoid discomfort. She knows that being emotionally intelligent means being emotionally available in the right way. In conflict, she seeks understanding before being understood. She asks herself, what is this person really trying to express? What pain or need might be hiding behind their behavior? This perspective doesn't make her naive, it makes her powerful. Because while others waste energy on emotional drama, she moves through conflict with grace, clarity, and compassion. Her emotional intelligence also protects her energy. She's able to recognize emotional manipulation, guilt-tripping, or toxic patterns early, and she walks away without guilt. Not every situation deserves a reaction. Not every emotion needs to be shared. She has learned to honor her feelings without being ruled by them. That balance gives her an emotional freedom that many never experience. She also knows the importance of emotional expression. She doesn't bury what needs to be felt. She gives herself space to cry, to laugh, to release, to reflect. She feels deeply but doesn't drown. Her emotions are not enemies. They are allies. They inform her decisions, deepen her relationships, and keep her aligned with her truth. In the end, emotional intelligence is not just something she values, it's something she embodies. It's her silent power, her secret wisdom, and the reason why she can walk into any room, any situation, any storm, and remain unshaken, present, and in control. Number 7. She never settles for surface-level connections. A highly intelligent woman doesn't just crave company, she craves connection. In a world that often rewards shallow conversations and curated personas, she stands out because she refuses to settle for anything superficial. She desires relationships rooted in truth, vulnerability, depth, and mutual growth. Whether in friendships, love, or professional networks, she is not impressed by appearances, small talk, or empty flattery. She is drawn to people who challenge her mind, engage her heart, and honor her soul. To her, time is sacred, and so is energy. She doesn't waste either on relationships that don't align with her values or her vision. She's not interested in being surrounded by a crowd if it means feeling alone in it. She would rather sit in meaningful silence than engage in meaningless conversation. She understands that true connection is not about how many people she knows, but how many see her as she truly is, and how many she is willing to see just as clearly. When she speaks, she seeks more than polite exchanges. She asks thoughtful questions. She listens with intention. She notices the emotion behind the words, the hesitation in the tone, the story that isn't being told. She wants to know people, not just their achievements, but their fears, their dreams, their contradictions, and in return she offers her own depth, not in oversharing or emotional dumping, but through honest, grounded presence. She values authenticity above all. She doesn't pretend to be someone she's not just to maintain a connection, and she doesn't ask others to shrink or perform to make her comfortable. Her relationships thrive on realness, If something is off, she'll bring it to the table. If trust is broken, she'll address it, not with drama, but with directness. She believes honesty is the highest form of respect because she doesn't settle for surface-level bonds. Her circle may be smaller, but it is stronger. She surrounds herself with people who nourish her mind and spirit, not drain them. People who speak life into her dreams, hold her accountable to her values, and walk beside her, not ahead, not behind. Quality over quantity isn't just a preference, it's a principle. She also understands that depth doesn't always mean agreement. She respects different perspectives and welcomes conversations that stretch her thinking. What she won't tolerate is emotional unavailability, manipulation, or performative connection. She has no interest in keeping relationships alive just to avoid discomfort. If it lacks depth, respect, or alignment, it's released. This refusal to settle doesn't come from arrogance. It comes from self-respect. She knows the kind of energy she brings, the loyalty she offers, the truth she lives, and she expects that same intentionality in return. She would rather wait for real than entertain fake. She would rather be alone than half-loved. In the end, her emotional depth is not a burden, it's her brilliance. It's what makes her relationships magnetic, healing, and unforgettable, because she doesn't just connect, she awakens. And those who truly know her never forget the beauty of being truly seen. Number 8. She practices disciplined self-care. A highly intelligent woman understands that self-care is not a luxury, it's a non-negotiable form of self-respect. But unlike trendy hashtags or temporary indulgences, her self-care is disciplined. It's not rooted in escapism, it's rooted in devotion. She doesn't practice self-care only when she's burned out or overwhelmed. She integrates it into her daily life as an essential act of self-preservation and personal power. She treats her body, mind, and spirit like sacred ground. That means she listens closely to her internal signals and responds with care, not neglect. When her body asks for rest, she honors it. When her mind feels cluttered, she steps back to breathe, journal, or reset. When her heart is heavy, she gives it space to feel and release. She knows that pushing through without pause is not strength, it's self-abandonment. Her self-care has structure. She doesn't wait until everything falls apart to show up for herself. She builds habits that nourish her every single day. Maybe it's rising early to stretch or meditate, preparing wholesome meals, drinking water like it's a ritual, or simply spending 10 minutes in silence. These acts might seem small, but they're powerful. They remind her that she matters, even in the busyness of life. She also curates her digital and physical environments. She doesn't consume just anything, whether it's food, media, or energy. She protects her peace by being mindful of what she allows into her space. If something feels toxic, she detaches. If someone drains her repeatedly, she sets boundaries. And when the world becomes too loud, she returns to herself, to her rituals, to her inner sanctuary. Because her self-care is discipline, it doesn't always feel easy. There are days she doesn't want to journal, stretch, or say no to things that pull her away from her center, but she does it anyway, not because she's motivated every day, but because she's committed. She knows discipline is a form of self-love that shows up even when it's inconvenient. She also understands that self-care includes doing the hard emotional work. It's not just bubble baths and herbal tea. It's setting boundaries, having uncomfortable conversations, forgiving herself for the past, choosing healing over avoidance. It's going to therapy if needed, saying no without apology, and choosing solitude over shallow company. Her self-care reflects her self-worth. She doesn't prove her value through overworking or people-pleasing. She proves it by treating herself with consistency, with reverence. She doesn't wait for others to take care of her. She becomes her own sanctuary. And from that wholeness, she gives not out of depletion, but from overflow. In the end, she knows this. How she cares for herself is how she teaches the world to treat her. And through disciplined self-care, she becomes not only healthier, but wiser, more grounded, more radiant. Her glow isn't just skin deep, it's the visible result of invisible devotion. Because she understands a woman who takes care of herself with discipline becomes unstoppable. Number 9, she learns from criticism without losing confidence. A highly intelligent woman knows that growth and criticism often arrive hand in hand. She doesn't crumble when she's critiqued, nor does she become defensive or closed off. Instead, she pauses, listens, and extracts the lesson, if one is there to be learned. Her ability to receive criticism without letting it dismantle her confidence is one of her greatest strengths. It is what allows her to evolve without losing her center. She understands that not all criticism is created equal. Some comes from a place of care and truth. Some comes from projection, insecurity, or misunderstanding. She knows how to tell the difference. She doesn't automatically internalize everything others say about her. Instead, she filters it through wisdom. Is this about me? Or is this about them? Is there truth here I can use? Or is this just noise? This discernment protects her peace while still keeping her open to growth. When the criticism is constructive, she welcomes it. Even when it stings, she doesn't let her ego stand in the way of evolution. She reflects on feedback with humility, not humiliation. She asks herself, how can this help me improve? What blind spot is being revealed? What adjustments can I make to grow stronger, wiser, more aligned? She sees criticism as a mirror, not a weapon, and she uses it to refine, not define herself. Importantly, she doesn't let criticism fracture her self-worth. Her confidence isn't fragile because it's not built on perfection or approval. It's built on self-awareness. She knows who she is. One negative opinion won't uproot her sense of value. She doesn't equate making a mistake with being a failure. She gives herself permission to be both growing and worthy, flawed and powerful at the same time. She also knows that those who fear criticism often remain stuck. They play small, avoid risk, and silence their true voice just to stay liked. But she plays a bigger game. She would rather be corrected than complacent. She would rather stretch and stumble than stay stagnant and safe. And because of that courage, she grows faster than most. When criticism is cruel or personal, she does not take the bait. She responds not with bitterness, but with boundaries. She doesn't fight to prove her worth. She walks away knowing it's intact. She doesn't allow other people's projections to rewrite her narrative. Her confidence is not performative. It's rooted in integrity, inner work, and lived experience. Her response to criticism also makes her a powerful leader and collaborator. People trust her because she doesn't react with ego. She listens, she adjusts when necessary, and when she stands firm, it's not from pride, it's from principle. This balance makes her rare. Open yet grounded, humble yet strong. In a world where many shrink under criticism or swing to arrogance to avoid it, she stands in the middle. With grace, with clarity, with resilience, she learns, she adjusts, but she never doubts her worth. Because her confidence doesn't come from never being wrong, it comes from knowing she's always willing to grow. Number 10, she embraces failure as a teacher. A highly intelligent woman does not run from failure, she welcomes it. While others view failure as an end, she sees it as the beginning of understanding, resilience, and reinvention. She has learned, often through personal trial, that failure is not the opposite of success. It is part of the process. She no longer asks, why did this happen to me? But instead, what is this here to teach me? That single shift in mindset turns every setback into a stepping stone. To her, failure is feedback. It is information, not identity. When a plan doesn't work out, a dream is delayed, or a decision backfires, she doesn't spiral into self-blame. Instead, she dissects the experience with courage and clarity. What did I overlook? What needs to be done differently next time? She doesn't personalize the failure, she analyzes it. She learns from it, grows through it, and ultimately transforms because of it. She refuses to allow the fear of failure to paralyze her into inaction. She knows that progress requires risk, and risk includes the possibility of falling. But she also knows that failure reveals who you really are, not when everything is working, but when nothing is. It tests your patience, your faith, your emotional strength, and she embraces that test fully because she trusts herself to rise, not just once but again and again. Failure has taught her humility. It has softened her edges and deepened her empathy. Because she has stumbled, she doesn't judge others who are struggling. Because she has lost, she knows how to support others when they are down. Her failures have made her wiser, not weaker. They've carved into her a depth that only lived experience can bring. She doesn't mask her failures behind a polished image. She speaks about them honestly, not as a source of shame, but as evidence of her journey. And when others look at her strength, she's quick to remind them, this strength was built in the ashes of things that didn't go as planned. In that way, she becomes a mirror for others, showing them that it's not only okay to fail, it's necessary to become who you were meant to be. Even in moments of heartbreak or public defeat, she doesn't crumble. She allows herself to grieve the loss, yes, but then she gets back up, dusts herself off and asks, what now? Because she knows failure is not final unless you stop moving. And she never stops moving. She also refuses to wear her failures like a scarlet letter. They are not evidence of incompetence but of courage. They prove that she tried, that she cared, that she stepped into the arena. And that, to her, is always more noble than playing it safe on the sidelines of life. In the end, failure is not something she fears, it's something she uses. She extracts wisdom from it. She builds resilience through it. And most of all, she honors it as one of her greatest teachers on the path to her fullest self. Number 11. She leads without dominating. A highly intelligent woman knows that true leadership is not about control. It's about influence. She leads not by overpowering others but by elevating them. Her presence is strong, not loud. Her impact is lasting, not forceful. She doesn't seek to dominate conversations, spaces, or people. Instead, she leads through quiet strength, clarity of purpose, and unwavering integrity. Her leadership style is not built on ego, it's built on example. She doesn't need a title to lead. Whether she's in a boardroom, a creative space, a family setting, or a community, she naturally becomes a source of guidance and grounding. People turn to her not because she demands it, but because she embodies it. She listens before she speaks. She observes before she acts. And when she speaks, her words carry weight because they come from reflection, not reaction. She leads through collaboration, not competition. She's not interested in being the smartest or the loudest. She's interested in collective success. She asks, how can I serve this group? How can I amplify the strengths of others? Her leadership is inclusive. She doesn't need to shine alone. She creates space for others to shine beside her. That's why people trust her, because she leads with empathy, not entitlement. In difficult situations, she stays calm and composed. She doesn't escalate tension. She diffuses it. She understands that leadership often means being the emotional anchor when others are overwhelmed. She makes decisions not out of impulse, but out of clarity. She weighs the consequences, considers the perspectives involved, and always comes back to what is right, not just what is easy or popular. She never confuses domination with respect. She knows that shouting, controlling, or micromanaging doesn't create loyalty, it creates fear and resistance. So instead of trying to force results, she inspires them. She empowers others to think, to contribute, and to lead in their own right. She mentors, she guides, and she encourages people to rise, never to shrink in her presence. Her leadership is rooted in emotional intelligence. She senses when someone needs support, when conflict is brewing, or when silence is louder than words, and she responds with emotional maturity. She doesn't lead to feed her ego. She leads to serve a greater purpose. That's what sets her apart. That's what makes her unforgettable. She's also not afraid to step back and let others take the lead when it's